My dear brothers and sisters in the risen Lord, seventh week of Easter Saturday, the heart of him who truly loves is a paradise on earth. He has God in himself, for God is love, said by Lamennais. St. John, apostle and evangelist, was a beloved disciple of Jesus. After the Pentecost, he went to Asia and founded many churches. The Emperor Domitian, hearing his fame, summoned him to Rome and had him plunge into the cauldron of boiling oil outside the gate called the Porta Latina. But the Blessed John came out untouched, just as he had avoided corruption of flesh. Seeing that this treatment had not deterred him from preaching, the emperor exiled him to the island of Patmos, where, living alone, he wrote the Apocalypse, the book of Revelation. That same year, when the Emperor Domitian was murdered because of his cruelty, the Senate revoked all his decrees. Thus it came about that John, who had been condemned unjustly, returned back to Ephesus with honor. John is thought to have died peacefully in about the third year of Emperor Trajan, that is, the 100th of the Christian era, being then about 94 years old. In today's Gospel, we have the conclusion of St. John's Gospel and the discussion Jesus and Peter had regarding the death of John. Let's note the question of Peter. Peter was favored by the Lord. He was restored to his apostleship, and even the kind of death that he could die was foretold to him. As Peter was following Jesus, he put this question to Jesus, Lord, what was about John? There could be different motives behind Peter's question. Peter would have been concerned about the fate of John, the beloved disciples. John had helped Peter in knowing the betrayer at the Last Supper. Now, perhaps he wanted to help John to know his fate from Jesus. One saint was helping another saint. Or the motive behind that question would have been his curiosity. He was just curious to know what manner of death John would die. Just a little while ago, Jesus had rehabilitated Peter, and he should have taken care in strengthening his weakness and should have made efforts in knowing more about his responsibility of shepherding Jesus' flock instead of curiously inquiring about another man's fate. Often, we are more curious about another people's fate than about our duties. Or the motive could have been one of envy. Peter was going to take up the cross, and he wanted to know if John was going to take up his cross. While carrying our crosses, we often wrongly take comfort in knowing that others too bear similar crosses. Second, the death of John. Jesus said that it was his will that John would remain alive till he came back. This saying was mistaken by the early Christian to mean that John would not see the death until Christ's second coming. But that was a mistake because Jesus never said that he would never die. The meaning of Christ himself came to take John away when he died a natural death. All the apostles had died as martyrs. They died violently, shedding their blood as martyrs, except John, who died a natural death as an old man. Secondly, the words of Christ that John should not die until Christ came back could refer to the coming of Christ to destroy Jerusalem. All the apostles of Christ had died before the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, except John. John lived almost a generation after the destruction of Jerusalem, and he completed the canon of the New Testament. May God bless you all. Amen.